These are the faces of Judaism and Christianity. Meeting in synagogues and churches, both faiths are built on the prophet Moses, yet part ways on Jesus. Two spiritual points of view, worlds apart, yet sharing a common city, story, and messianic hope. The Jewish roots of Christianity on this day of discovery.
Since 1938, the Rockefeller Archaeological Museum in East Jerusalem has been committed to showing the part that the people of the Holy Land have played in the history of the world. You walk these halls and you realize that history is important. And nowhere is history more important than in the way it helps to form the religious faiths of the world. Oftentimes when we think of the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim religions, we see their differences. What we'd like to look at today are some of the things that the Christian faith has in common with its Jewish roots. To better understand the relationship of Judaism to the Christian faith, I met with three men who are Jewish by birth and followers by choice of Jesus as the Messiah of Israel. Meno Kalisher is a pastor in Jerusalem. Avner Boskey also lives in Israel. He's a guide and worship leader. Michael Rydelnik is a professor of Jewish studies teaching from a Christian perspective. We decided to meet at an archaeological site linked to the original followers of Jesus.
You know, that's such an interesting thing here, Mart, too, because we're talking about the original church. You know, the original Jews who believed in Jesus 2,000 years ago. What a better place to consider that right here. Because this is right where we're standing. This is where Jesus walked on these stairs coming up to the temple.
Describe it historically. Where are we standing?
Well, we're on the southern side of the temple. So this is called the southern wall excavations right here.
Where we decided to meet can be seen in this model of Jerusalem from the time of Jesus. We met on the southern steps that once led up to the great temple of Israel.
And you can look right down here beneath the Umayyad buildings from around 800. You've got all the immersion pools, like right over here behind us was one of the immersion pools that probably would have been used in Acts chapter 2 and Acts chapter 3. This is where people would walk down the stairs and come into the water and get baptized. It's part of an original Jewish mikveh going back for purification.
So are you talking about believers in Jesus?
Believers in Jesus who heard Peter preaching in Acts 2.
Would have used
it talks about 3,000 people getting immersed. This would have happened right here in these pools where we're standing.
The book of Acts, chapter 2, records the first baptisms of those who believed in Jesus.
Then those who gladly received Peter's word were baptized, and that day about 3,000 souls were added to them. Acts chapter 2.
But wouldn't that have been an issue? I mean, wouldn't temple officials have had an issue with followers of Jesus using the pools that
were... It was the most natural thing. In your mind, it's like two religions. For us, it's the natural thing.
You're saying in my mind it's like two religions?
Yes, absolutely.
In those days, everybody was Jewish. Those who were for Jesus, those who were against Jesus, Jesus himself.
And they went to the synagogue to pray together. It was the same
But they were seeing different things, and it was there was conflict.
One was seeing the shadow, the other one, the revealed one.
And the split hadn't happened yet. The split that we've lived with in history hadn't yet happened. So it was one family, a Jewish family. They say two Jews, three opinions.
A Jewish family with disagreements in it?
Disagreements, but still
it's
it was a Jewish
family.
And you see, they were coming here. This is probably where Acts 2 happened.
And when you say Acts 2?
Where the Holy Spirit fell on the day of Pentecost, and Peter then preached. When he preached that message, it was out here.
Why do you say here? I mean, why not some other place in Israel?
Because there are no room for 3,000 people to hear it.
Which
And
is
then-
what the text said.
The text
Absolutely,
says Jerusalem. It talks about a certain house where they were, which is probably just up the hill.
Yeah.
But then to immerse 3,000 people, you don't have, hotels in Jerusalem in those days. You don't have a lot of running water. The only place where 3,000 people could get immersed in Jerusalem, no lakes, no
Okay.
rivers, is right here.
According to the book of Acts, here in Jerusalem, after Jesus' resurrection, and on the Jewish feast of Pentecost, the Holy Spirit of God descended, filling all those who believed that Jesus was the Messiah of Israel. It was the supernatural birth of the church, a word that at the time did not refer to a building, but to a called-out group of people who believed that Jesus had fulfilled the prophetic scriptures.
When the day of Pentecost had fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven, as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. Then there appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, and one sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. And there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men from every nation under heaven. Acts chapter 2.
As a public sign of their decision to follow Jesus, these first believers were baptized in the ritual purification pools of the temple.
You go out to do this cleaning in water, and it's a expression, public expression to the rest. You're really pure before the Lord. If the Lord will come, you have clean hands. That's the general idea.
It meant one thing to Jewish people, but another thing, though, to followers of Christ, right?
Well, there were two ways, I think, that there was the ritual purification for any Jew multiple times when they would come to the temple or just for ritual purification. And I think that's more like what John the Baptist or John the Immerser was doing.
Well, Paul would have done the same thing, wouldn't he, in Acts 20:21?
Yeah, exactly. But then there's a sort of an immersion that proselytes, when Gentiles would convert to Judaism, to take on the identity of a Jew, they would go into these immersion pools and they'd go in and come up, and that was part of their process of identification with Judaism. Well, I think that's really where the immersion of becoming a follower of Jesus, go in the water and come up identifying with him.
That's the
came
root.
from that root. But it comes right from Judaism. And that's the important thing, because a lot of people think that John the Baptist appears and he's baptized, and they're going, wonder what that means. No, it was part of the normal culture of the time.
And put
Jews
it back
do it.
into that. Okay.
Yeah, it's rooted in the scriptures with the ritual washings.
Yes, all the people who came to him were Jewish people.
Yeah. And in fact, you talk about people from all over the world. At Acts 2, there were Jews from all over the world right here.
Why?
Because it was Pentecost, and it was one of the 3 holidays that Jewish people had to make pilgrimage to Jerusalem. And so there were Jews from all over the world.
On the Jewish feast of Pentecost, Peter spoke publicly to his Jewish countrymen. He explained the miracle of communication that had enabled international pilgrims to hear the gospel of Jesus in their own national dialect. He explained the coming of the Holy Spirit as a sign predicted by the prophet Joel. And his explanations may have been delivered in the area of these broad stone steps that lifted thousands to Israel's temple.
Peter's message. This is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. And it shall come to pass in the last days, says God, that I will pour out of my Spirit on all flesh.